Welcome to the Soulfire Podcast, where every day we talk about real life, real shit, real raw. On this show, you can expect us to dive deep into topics like marriage, parenting, money, business, feeling like you want to give up, fighting for yourself, just straight soul healing. This podcast is all about life. Hey there, it's Power Coach Alishia here, your source of fun, funny, exciting, entertaining, and educational life coaching, transformational speaking, and soul healing. We're talking about setting your soul on fire. I specialize in helping women put themselves first without feeling guilty, getting out of their own way, and finding themselves again. No fluff, no hand-holding, no bullshit here, just love, light, and peace as we journey through this thing called life. Well, it's official. This is my 38th birthday podcast circle around the sun. Yeah, right? Is that how you say it? Whatever, it doesn't matter. I'll actually be 38 tomorrow, April 22nd. But of course, I have to record this podcast so you guys can get it on time. So this podcast, I've been thinking a long time about what did I want to talk about for my year. You know, my trip around the sun, it's been 12 months. What has changed? How have I grown? What do I want to share? And so I just decided to jump in here and just riff off my soul and what comes up for me. So I'm going to first start with April of 2021 and, you know, just share with you like a long/short year ago. Because, you know, that's the weird thing, right? A year ago seems like so long ago, but in the same breath, it was so short ago too, you know? And I had just opened my Soul Healing Zone store, which was basically a store of me manifested in products. And I was just kind of coasting along, letting life lead me, letting my spirit, my intuition, my ing is what I call it, your inner nudge for good, just lead me wherever it was that I wanted/needed to be led. And, you know, letting that be good enough and connecting with that and that journey. And I opened a brick and mortar store and I didn't even, you know, it wasn't even an actual intention to do it. I didn't have a plan to do it. I mean, one day I wanted to open a brick and mortar store with like metaphysical products and crystals and books and all those sorts of things. But at the time that I opened my store, it actually wasn't a plan to do that. And so when I opened it, though, I was still broken. I guess I should say I was on the mend, you know, at that time of healing me and where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to get there and what did my future look like? Was I going to go get a day job and work for someone else? Was I just going to run this store and, you know, hopefully Daniel could pay the bills and sustain our lifestyle? Or was I going to get into life coaching and stay there and live there and be there and really build my business? I did not know where I was going. And so I was just chilling. And then as the months went on, I, you know, became more and more in my own power, more connected with what I wanted, where I was going, how I was getting there. And then, you know, maybe mid-July, beginning July of 2021, I started getting back into coaching. August, I was for sure that that's exactly what I was going to do. And then, I mean, I've just been going like gangbusters ever since then. And it feels so good in my soul and things feel really amazing. Not to say there aren't bad days or hard times, because I've had a lot of health issues this year. Well, physical issues. Let me rephrase, universe. Don't take me literally. Physical issues with my hands and swelling and my arms hurting, my legs hurting, swelling. You know, it's been quite an interesting, I guess not necessarily year, just the last few months have been crazy with that. But weather's been nuts too. Barometric pressure's been nuts. So let me think about, you know, my biggest lessons from this year. Well, one would definitely be to Just let your ing guide you, that inner nudge for good and where you need to go, right? Where you're supposed to go, where you're being led to go, where you're being called to go. 2, I think another big lesson was that it's great to have goals and things that you want to achieve. It's better, though, to let those things unfold as they will and relinquish control over that, because everything is in divine timing. You actually don't have control over whether or not something is going to happen in the timeline that you want it to, right? And one of the things that I have been talking a lot about, I learned it from my coach a couple weeks ago, and it just like struck me in the core of my soul. And that's the difference between timing and speed. You know, timing is. Timing feels peace. Timing is full of, I don't know, like abundance and happiness and joy. Timing is ease. You know, it's abundant. It's freedom. It's soul connection. It's basically all my core desired feelings that I have on the wall in front of me, you know? Timing is just so beautiful. And speed is like rushy and anxious and overwhelming and control and just so disconnected, restrained, desperation, fear. When I think of speed, you know, when you're doing something because you want it to happen now, you want it to happen fast, you want it to show up when you want it to show up, the way you want it to show up, how it shows up in that speed energy, it doesn't end up feeling good. When you attract things in speed, it really creates this issue where you aren't the version of you that you need to be, to where when you attract that, it, you know, connects to you, it stays. This is so much so why when we're pushing and rushing and controlling and all of these things that, you know, maybe things are happening, you know, kind of the way that we want them to, closer to the way that we want them to, but then it kind of falls apart or it goes backwards or it comes undone and you're like, what the fuck? I don't get what the fuck happened. What did it come undone? What changed? It's like, well, you weren't the soul that you needed to be, that when that arrived, when that happened, when that result came, when that opportunity showed up, for it to stay, right? And so it didn't. It's a big lesson that I learned this year, you know, timing versus speed. And I hold on to it so much because every day that I am in speed energy, I remember the difference between the two, and I remind myself, like, no, everything in divine timing. Like, I feel this. Right before I recorded this podcast, I was like, well, I do have a couple of things, you know, still to do today. My schedule is pretty back to back. Well, it's time for me to eat lunch. So should I just eat at my desk or, you know, and I went, no, I'm going to go sit outside where the sun is shining and it's warm, because the weather can't ever figure out what the fuck it's doing. 1 minute it's beautiful and the next minute it's like a blizzard outside, you know. I'm sure you can relate. It's kind of like that all over. So I eat my lunch outside and I just remember like what my soul needs. And one of the things that, you know, came up as I was sitting out there is I bought this new patio set that I love, but this patio set really isn't conducive. Like, I don't feel connected to it. I don't want to go out and sit on the patio set and do some work, or I don't want to go out and sit. I don't know, like something is up. There's a disconnection there. And I have another patio set that's down below on our cement pad. And that's like a big table. It's got a big umbrella. It has 6 chairs. And that is easier for me to work or journal or whatever I want to do, a ritual. You know, it's easier to do that out there. I think one of my big things is that the other setup on the deck doesn't have an umbrella, but I digress. My time out today, though, was just so peaceful and so connected. You know, something else that I did this year that I've never done before was I went on basically like a soul retreat. And anytime I explain this, everybody's so confused. They're like, wait, where did you go? What did you do? What were the activities? You know, how much was it to sign up? And it actually wasn't any of that. There was no events. Nobody put this soul retreat on. I didn't have any classes to attend. I created it for myself. And my intention on this retreat was to go through the list of things that I had regarding my business and use the time and space that I had in that retreat to take care of the things that I felt like I needed headspace in order to do. So it was really great for that. I got so much done and so much growth happened and so many things were completed, but in a great timing sort of energy way. I spent a lot of time being lazy, doing nothing, watching TV. I absolutely enjoyed ordering Uber Eats and being able to eat whatever I want and had it, delivered to my hotel. So that was really cool. And, binge watching Impractical Jokers and Bad Boys 2. I really love that movie. It lights up my soul, makes me so happy. And so the one thing though is throughout the entire retreat, I kept feeling frustrated. I'm like, this doesn't feel so refreshing. I feel like, I should be doing stuff. And this is before I learned the timing speed thing, or I learned it on the retreat. I can't remember when I learned it in the timeline, but I'm positive it was before I learned timing versus speed. I think I learned it that Thursday when I came back from my retreat. And I'm here and I'm just like, I should be getting more done and I should feel more connected. I should feel more full. I should feel more like my my core desired feelings, like at ease and free and soul connected and abundant and peaceful and energetic, like happy and blissful. Like I felt like I should feel these things. And I felt more irritable and frustrated and disconnected and annoyed. My emotions, my feelings were just opposite than what I thought they would be and what I truly wanted them to be. So I felt like this fucking retreat was worthless and we wasted this money. Not to mention that the hotel, I stayed at a new hotel. Usually I stay at Marriott's. I really like them. I know their quality, their service, everything, but I stayed at a Hyatt Regency place for the first time and the last fucking time. And the hotel really did energetically fuck up a portion of that retreat because they just kept fucking with my money. And that's a whole other story, but I'll have to share that at another time because that was a really big growth moment for me. But it was interesting. So I had these emotions and feelings like this isn't really going anywhere, and I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of this. And I've spent half the retreat working and the other half of the retreat being lazy, and I took a nap like every day, and that's not like me. And so I was irritated. I was just so irritated. And, now looking back, if I would have had the lesson of timing versus speed, then timing, everything was perfect. Daniel was amazing and just kept reminding me that there was no actual agenda and whatever I needed was what I was going to be doing and just to let that happen and let that flow. And he was so right. And so I felt like when I left that retreat that I wouldn't actually feel like I got the rejuvenation and reset that I went for. But I did learn a couple of things. The first thing that I learned was I went there with the intention to clean up some things with my company and really pull some things together and get clear in different areas. And there was so much on my list that I wanted to do on this retreat as it pertained to my business that one thing I forgot, and I never even thought about it until the day before I left. And that was having an equal plan for my spirit. So every day having a plan for my soul spirit and what I was going to do and, where I was going to focus. Even if I took an astrology course the 4 days that I'm there, I love astrology. I love zodiac signs. I love the moon phases. I love how the planets really affect things and understanding all of these things. Mercury retrograde, all of these things. Okay, so if I'm on a retreat for 4 days, well, every day for 4 days, if the, course that I'm in is 4 modules, to do a module a day, that's great for my, spiritual soul development side. Or maybe another thing would be have a goal and intention that each day I do a new ritual and I learn a new ritual, and it's, one's for peace and one's for ease and one's for abundance. And what I mean? So one thing I missed was the intentional side on the spirit side of me, I was just so focused on the other side. Not to mention I'm a type A personality. So just chilling in a hotel room for 4 days felt like a lot of wasted time. But I kept filling into it and I felt my resistance, but I, stayed the course. The last day I felt lonely And it was the only day I felt like, you know what, I really want to go home. But I stayed, and I was really proud of myself because my biggest struggle was getting bottles open. I just don't have the fucking hand strength. And it took every, ounce of my strength to get them open. And then I ended up causing more damage to my hand, but whatever. So there's probably only one time that I almost called Daniel to come help me. I stayed pretty close to home just in case I needed help, but I never did. And, I made it work. So I wanted to take a second and interrupt this podcast episode to let you know that you do not have to do this alone and that I am here to help you. I am a master at helping you get out of your own way, put yourself first, and finding yourself again. And I do have an opportunity for you to book a free breakthrough session with me. And during this session, we're going to be uncovering what's holding you back and getting clear on how you got stuck and getting clear on when you got stuck and identifying what next steps you need to take and how I can actually help you. These breakthrough sessions are so freaking powerful that as people go on to work with me in my Soul Shift program and be my client, they constantly refer back to our first session. So although they're not a coaching session, you get so much from them to help you get on the right path, right direction, and get unstuck in your life that I would be doing you a huge injustice if I didn't share them with you during this podcast episode. So if you would love to have your own free breakthrough session, all you got to do is message me on Facebook, the word breakthrough. I will link in the description below the quick link to send me a message, but it's m.me/Alishia Willardson. Again, that's m.me/Alishia Willardson. Another lesson was like, those retreats are so good. It's just, for me, it's going to be more important that I have things planned for my spirit and soul, as well as on the other side of what I want to look at on the business side and clean up on the business side. The only thing I don't know is if 4 days will be long enough if I'm going on like a spiritual journey and like a quarterly review, cleanup, setup for the next quarter. So we'll see what happens. But that was something new that I did this year, and I really loved that. I really enjoyed that. I'm just, kind of processing through this year. One thing I'll say that I didn't like was that we really, in the last 12 months, we only took one actual vacation, and then we went camping one time. And I didn't love that. So, going into my 38th year, it's extremely important that we go on 4 vacations minimum. Like, we love vacations. It's something that's really important to us as a family and things that we need for our soul. And so like, that's really important. We are going on like a cross country tour. So I'll be doing a speaking tour and just basically our last hurrah before Ronan turns 18 and, goes on with his adult life things he's doing, maybe goes to college, whatever he's going to be doing. So that'll be cool. So we'll be on the road for about 2 months for that this coming up year. So I look forward to that in my 38th year. But, would I do that in my 38th year? No, I think I'd be doing that in my 39th year. I don't fucking know. Yeah, 39th year. So I digress from that. So yeah, I think that's something I didn't like this year. Another thing that really came up for me the last 12 months was, really getting clear on what my standards are for, every area of my life. Like, what are my standards as it pertains to, how I feel physically and take care of myself physically? Not necessarily like eating healthy, working out, but just general standards there. Like my non-negotiables, that's what I call them. Like standards are non-negotiables, things that no matter what, for you, these are your non-negotiables. And if those are broken, there's a fucking problem, So I noticed this year, I felt that there was a lot more standard setting and non-negotiables were so much more clear to me of what was so important and what I wasn't willing to give on. And one thing I see a lot with my clients and my soul shift is that you don't have those standards. You don't have those non-negotiables. I mean, obviously the obvious ones like partner can't cheat on me, kid tries to murder me, like whatever that is, like you have these obvious non-negotiables, but like what are your non-negotiables for your personality? You know, what would a retreat look like if you went on it? I'm going on a retreat 4 times for the year. Maybe you're only going to go on a retreat 3 times or 1 time or whatever, you know, at least 1 time I recommend. But I could tell after that 1 time, you know, there were moments where I said, I will never do this again. And then I was like, you know what, absolutely, I need to do this again because I want to perfect it. I want it to feel so good that I look forward to that every quarter. And now as the days tick on, I'm like, oh, I can't wait for July to have my next soul retreat. I'm so excited. Like, I know what I'm going to do, and I know like how I'm going to do my card readings, and I know how I'm going to really open up, and I'm really excited for all the things that I'll have learned between now and then, and my rituals, and I just get so excited about the retreat. But there were moments where I was like, I'm never doing this again. So, you know, what about a retreat for yourself to like reset and, you know, learn some of the lessons that I've learned here? In my Soul Tribe group, if you go to group.soulhealingzone.com, I'll be talking about rituals that I do and crystals that I use and angel cards that I use and what my retreats are like, the lessons I learned, what I'll do different next time, the growth that I've had. All of that is happening in the Soul Tribe community. So if you want to, you know, learn more about the spiritual side and all these different things, utilizing essential oils, there's a set that I've been using. It's unbelievable for focus and energy. And like, I have just loved the drive that I've had with these essential oils. And they're actually very inexpensive, very affordable, but they're good quality. Like candles that I use to ground me or to give me headspace or clarity or positivity. Like, all of that stuff is happening in Soul Tribe, and you're learning all about astrology and crystals and angels and like all those things. So if that connects with you, you want to go to group.soulhealingzone.com, which brings me to the next thing that has been, you know, huge for me this year. And that was learning how to, stepping into being led and bridging the gap between how I do my life coaching and all the tools I use on a regular basis. I use a lot of tools on a daily basis to help me. You know, I just named some of them, you know, and I want to be bringing those tools and sharing those tools with the world. And ever since I started stepping away from my store and then closed it in December of 2021, I just knew in my heart that there had to be a way that I could merge my spiritual side and what I do with the life coaching side and it come together in a beautiful world. And now that I'm starting to step into that, like right at the end of my 37th year, I'm stepping into that. And I am so excited for this and what's to come and how it's going to all incorporate. And I'm really excited for my, 38th year review in a year. And I come back and I say, oh my God, this is everything that's changed and how everything has evolved and, all of that kind of stuff. I just can't wait to share that because it is going to be unfreaking believable. So sorry about the ding in your ear. My kid decided to text me right now and I didn't have my stuff on mute. So with that being said, let me see if there's any other things I want to share with you about my 37th year life. Because like I said, I'm going into my 38th year. So hopefully I made that clear at the beginning. There's this interesting thing that I noticed, and that's that I am over things that I don't use. I don't know if that's an age thing. I don't know. But I'm like sitting here recording this podcast thinking, why are there all of these fucking things around here that are pointless, that I don't use or that I don't need, or they're not in their right space? I can see my chakra candles, they're all out of organization. My angel oracle cards are not in their right places. I'm missing my spring altar, so that's like blank. My altar area is blank. There's books that aren't in the right place. There's shit in my sacred space that I don't want here. And then over into my room, I'm like, there's a pile of this and a pile of that. Like, I've always been a clutter pile annoyed sort of person. But I'm like to this point where I'm like, let's just throw everything away that I'm not not even kind of using. I probably won't do that because I will come back and use it. I'm just that type of person. I have a whole bunch of angel cards that I only use for certain types of readings that I've often thought, well, why don't I just, sell them as gently used angel cards? Because, they can bless somebody else's life. And then I'm like, no, because there's that moment where I'm like, oh, I want the relationship set that I used 5 years ago in my readings on a regular basis when I use it for this person. So anyways, but I am noticing that there's a shift going on where I want things like everything in its place all the time. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but that is definitely something that I've noticed. I'm definitely looking forward to not having a brick and mortar store this summer season, because last year it did take away some of the things I really love to do, like sit out back. And, we live on the 15th hole of the golf course and there's a pond back there. And I could sit in my sacred space and watch the hummingbirds fly in and the birds come and eat their bird seed. And I would water my flowers every day because I plant flowers in pots and put them on my front and back porches. Like so many things like that are so important to me. So I'm definitely looking forward to having that time and, cleaning up our yard. Like I love to work outside and be in the sun and play in the dirt, probably because I'm an earth sign, but I absolutely love that. And I look forward to more camping trips and more exploration around the Western United States this year. And I really feel that my soul has just been so opened and light poured in and just peace brought to me and so much freedom and connection. Like there's so much growth that has happened in my 37th year. And when my 37th year started, it was shit. My birthday felt like it was a day that came and went. My immediate family, my husband, my 2 kids, they did nothing for me. They didn't celebrate anything. They didn't bring me my favorite shake. They didn't bring me my favorite lunch. They didn't do anything for me on my birthday. And so entering in my 37th year, I felt so unimportant and like I did not matter to my family and my household. And it was a hard day for me. I was extremely frustrated by how that all went down. But as the time went on, I see so much that happened in my 37th year that I'm grateful for. It's so weird to look back almost a year from now and think how I was feeling inside, how I was operating on a daily basis, that I felt like I was missing something. I felt like I didn't know where things were going and when they were going to get there. I didn't feel like I had a direct path and a direction. And it felt like I was walking around aimlessly, making these crazy decisions for this brick and mortar store. But in hindsight, everything was perfection in divine timing every single step of the fucking way. And I could not be more grateful for the year that I've had and the growth that I've had and all the things that I've learned. And the one thing that I hope that you have taken from this podcast episode, this is just like a reminiscing chatty Cathy telling you it's on my mind from the last year, is that you can see yourself in me. Maybe you are where I was at the beginning of my 37th year. Maybe you're somewhere in between then and now, because now I feel so much more clear. I know exactly where I'm going, maybe not how I'm getting there, exactly where I'm going. My path is getting more and more clear to how I'm getting there. And I'm feeling so much more connected to what my soul is calling for. It's so much more obvious and clear to me that when my soul is speaking up, I can hear what it's saying and that I'm able to take that action to lead me there, even if I'm not sure how to get to that end result. And so whether you're, clear back to the 37-year-old me day one, or you're in the middle between the 37-year-old day one and me now, or you're here, but you're just like, oh my God, like I'm ready. I feel like I know what I'm doing, but I still, things aren't very clear. Like wherever you are on your path, your journey, I just hope that my last year of life has impacted you and helped you grow and helped you connect through my journey, my ups and my downs and my shittiness that I was like, fuck, I have no idea how I'm going to make it through this, my crying in the podcast and the just the unbelievable things that have happened. I lost family members this year that I never thought that I wouldn't have. Everything it's shifted, but it's all been towards my personal growth journey. And I just pray that I have poured into you through my experiences the way that I intended it to. And I hope that this podcast, there's been something that I've said in this episode that connected to your soul and gave you just a little more fire to go out and fight a little harder, right? Give yourself a little more grace. Say yes to yourself a little more often. And look at where you are making progress, where you have made progress, and letting go of that perfection. Thank you for being on this journey with me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for celebrating another year of life. And I look forward to what's next. We'll see you later. Thank you so much for listening to the Soul Fire podcast. I truly appreciate you taking out your time to be here. I would love it if you would subscribe and share. And at the end of each episode, head over to community.soulhealingzone.com. Again, that's community.soulhealingzone.com. And share with me, what was your number one takeaway? What really connected with you? What got your fire lit? What was something that you absolutely loved about this episode? I cannot wait to continue creating more episodes with you, connecting with you, and helping you through this journey on this thing called life. I'll see you later.